Hey guys, it's Tom from Speedingtube. Welcome back to the channel. As you saw in my last video, I killed the engine on the van by fitting a powder coated cam cover. You can see the damage of that on one of Nick's videos where he tore the engine down.
The underside of this rotor cover is as rough. Jesus, it is like caked.
He's also just put the video up last week for the engine rebuild, which just gives you a bit of an intro on the story.
We stripped it down, seen the damage, and let's face it, I pretty much wrote that engine off. I think in the video I said it couldn't be saved. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I saved it.
Links to both of those in the description at the top. This video really is just the install, putting the engine in, just showing you how it's been done. It went up on decimal temps. The guys up there have been fantastic, really supportive, and also just really good friends. I've known those guys for a couple of years now. I'm not selling anything yet, still testing. So for the moment, thanks a lot. Enjoy the video, and please do as well subscribe to Decimal Temps, because those guys have been brilliant, and I'll be doing a lot more with those in the future as well. So cheers, take it easy.
Exciting times today, folks. Welcome back, Decimal Temps. My name's Nick, and today we're fitting the 18T stroker motor into the Speedingtube T4 van. So the really cool thing about this as well is that we're getting to fit the Speedingtube T4 conversion kit that Tom's developed with a load of top companies. He's done a really good job, and allows the 18T with the O2M gearbox to go straight into the T4. I mean, obviously custom gearbox brackets, stabilizer bracket down here, as well as a really nifty engine mounting bracket here, which includes like a captive plate to go underneath. So that's really good because it uses the strength from the chassis leg to support the engine, just like it is in the car, really, a bit of a pendulum setup. And obviously, I mean, this one is like full-on 500 brake race van, but this kit allows this engine to go into this van, even in standard form. And it does it by using all of these little fancy trick bits. So you've got a custom billet adapter ring to go between the engine and the gearbox. Now you can fit it without that adapter ring, but it doesn't allow the ideal placement of the gearbox for the diff and the way that the drive shafts go. So the adapter ring is pretty essential. Also, in keeping with the way that the engine has to be mounted, is this funky little machined adapter spacer for the oil pickup, and that just allows, when the engine gets canted forward, it allows the oil pickup to be exactly parallel to the ground, where it should be, to pick up the oil perfectly. The kit also comes with a one-piece billet flywheel, which is really cool, so you don't have to use any spacers, longer bolts, anything like that. You can use the OEM bolts. The spacers have a bad rep for a reason, for safety, so it just makes sense, this, and that, I really like that. And for all that kit allows the 18T and the PD conversion in the T4. Obviously, it's not good enough for Tom. He's went full fat here. This is his 18T, well, it's not actually an 18T now, it's a 2-litre turbo stroker motor, so bored out, stroker crankshaft, cat cams. It's pretty good, and we put this together. There's a bit of a story behind this, obviously, so if you're interested in that, we'll leave a link at the end to the strip down, the build, all the rest of it. This should be about 500 brake horsepower, and we're going to have it on our dyno as well. But there's no time at the present. We've got the engine ready, we've got the mounts ready, we've got the box ready. Let's chuck it in.
Right, so I'm just about to put the gearbox in. We're going to get everything mounted up shortly on the engine. Here, original chassis mount point. I've also used the original dog bone mount point. Got a crush tube, so that comes with bushes, so it goes straight on. And on this side, rather than, as many people do, welding onto the side of the chassis here and relying on a welded joint or a bolt, sometimes, some people are using the mount up here as well, which is good. But for this setup, I wanted to make sure I get a good distribution of weight across the mount. This setup was actually designed with Auto Style down the road from me. We worked on this last year, and Ant is absolute genius when it comes to this kind of stuff. He's measured it all out, so we're going to be able to replicate this all pretty easily. On this side, the way that it mounts, it's very straightforward. You've got to drill 3 holes. That's it. Okay, now of course, you've got your original mounting point here, spot welded in, so you can just drill it out and take out this part here. Sell it if you want to someone who's just rusted out. So if you come in closer, the kit will come with this little spacer here. The reason we need this is to clear this notch on the chassis rail here. It also acts as a good template because once you pop that down there, you can feel it settles into a position. Mark your holes through there. Once you've done that, you'll then obviously have your 2 marks there. And this is the captive plate. Rather than just putting your bolts through the top of the chassis rail and putting nuts underneath, Ant actually devised a captive plate that goes in underneath here. You hold it in with the bolts provided, and that gives you your points. So it enables you to have a really firm and secure mount on the chassis rail. This here is a Mark IV mount. Mine is a Vibrotechnics one, which I got from Darkside Developments, but many people will just use a standard Mark IV mount. Pop it on the top, so that's in the right spot. And then put your bolt through, just pop it into there, and then wind her up. That now, absolutely solid. That's not going anywhere.
Just the fact that all I got to do is turn my wrist and that's just like perfect.
This is the old oil pickup that I had on the old engine. What most people do on a 20 valve is they'll cut it and then rotate it to get it in the right spot. Rather than having to cut pickups and mess around, I decided it'd be far better to bin off this piece and actually make a small adapter. This is what SWR were going to knock up originally. There was another chap on the T420 page that actually did his own version, which was like a round circle. He's decided that he's not doing that anymore and said, look, crack on, and I've had these made up now. This design uses a rubber seal round here, and SWR have knocked this up, the same guys that did the adapter plate. Right, we've got an AGU windage tray, special one, aren't they, these ones?
Yep, very special. Forged from
factory. We've thrown the old one away. With the bearing failure, you'll end up with bits of metal everywhere on the returns. Okay, so now we just want to torque these up to 15 newton meters. Everything is just the original torque settings. Now, as far as the engine's concerned, the ground is that way. So now, with the adapter, we can rotate this right the way around and get it where it should be. And we're now going to get a nice draw, and we're also raising the cavitation level. Really happy with that.
Cool. Nice how it fits perfectly with the windows.
You know, little things like this, you know, the all pickup adapter, figuring out all the shafts and getting all the measurements right, they're the things that take the time. It's always worth putting some fresh boots on, just because if they crack, it fail your MOT, or it's a warning, or is it a failure? I think it's a fail, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's always worthwhile just putting a fresh boot on there when you can. One good thing to do on your T4, even if you haven't got one that's engine swap, a bit more of a preemptive measure really, the clutch bracket spot welds tend to snap. Okay, now if you look under here, I've lit the area so you can see it well. You've got a couple of little bolts here and a bracket. Now this thing here tends to break and you end up with your basically no clutch pedal. Obviously your uprated pressure plate is going to take more force. The harder that is, the more force you're going to have to put through the clutch pedal. It's just a cheap reinforcement bracket off eBay, and it's so easy to fit. I'm going to whip that through. But this is the other side of that bolt here. You can see it coming through here. I've taken the 2 bolts out of here. I can move it around, and I'm going to put that around there and then put the bolt through. That one's now on. The top one. There you go, guys. I think they're only about 7 or 8 quid, but if it saves you being broken down at the side of the road, it's well worth putting on there. Especially, you know, if you are putting a uprated clutch in with a bigger pressure plate, it's very easy to start snapping these spot welds on the back here. Right, guys, sump's about to go on. Just a quick little thing here. Got an 8th MPT Ali Boss, and here's my sump. So I'm just going to flappy wheel this down, get that nice and clean, get the Boss welded on there, and then I'll have engine oil temperature. There you go, guys, nice and flat. The step on the Boss is about 20mm, so we're just going to pop a 20mm hole in. There you go, it just needs welding up now. It just needs welding from behind. Just clean up that alley there just to make sure it's spotless, and then we'll drop it down to get welded. Always want to keep an eye on the engine oil temperature, but also as well, especially if I'm going to be going on track, I want to make sure I can keep an eye on the gearbox oil temperatures. Now I have got a stack Pro Stepper gauge inside the van here. Now the reason that I've got the Stack Pro Stepper is because this can actually trigger a relay so that I can power a Mocal oil cooler circuit for the gearbox. Okay, so I've now taken the fill hole out of the gearbox, and I'm going to get a hole drilled through there and get it tapped for an 8th MPT, or we can go for N10x1. So I'm going to hand this over now to Spencer. He's going to use the pillar drill, and he's going to tap it for me as well, aren't you, bud? And we'll pop it in. Right, guys, we've just run into a bit of a short-term issue. The USB plug on the ECU, I don't know if you can see down there, we've had to take the covers off. The socket on the ECU actually got pretty knackered. There you go, so Nick's labelled all of the wires. We just did a continuity test, didn't we, yesterday, and labelled them out. And he's wired it direct into the board on there. And now for the moment of truth. I say the moment of truth, but obviously we've tested this first, haven't we?
Don't tell them that,
yeah. But
real.
Nick's also wired in my switch. I mean, this is, are you ready for race van level 500? Ready? Boom. There you go, Nick. Congratulations. Teamwork.
That's it. Makes the dream work, mate.
There we go. Perfect. So that's good. go guys, everything's in. Quick talking point on the transverse bracket. Normally up here you'd have your alternator, you'd have your aircon pump here, and you also have your power steering one at the bottom. Now in a car, that sits level, okay, so there's no problems there, but obviously in the T4 with it tilted forward, it does sit quite low. This is what I've been running so far. This is just an alternator part of the bracket. Many people cut them up there, as you can see, they're modified. Now what a lot of people do is they'll chop the bracket here, across there and there, and they'll put the lower half of an A4 18T longitudinal mount, which is where the engine sits like that in the car, going to the back wheels that way. But it still sits out quite far, and I wanted to make sure that I get as much ground clearance as possible. So what I've actually done is I've had this CAD scanned and moved up here with a bracket, so it gives me as much ground clearance as possible, and it just means that you're not going to have that sat down low like that. I'm going to cut along this line here and then just neaten it up. Again, as always, I've got to test these things first. You know, I'd get so many messages from people saying, oh, is this ready? Can I have it now? Can I have it now? I want to test everything first, because I don't want to, you know, give something to someone that I'm not happy with 100%. Here you go, Spencer's just doing the bolts up. You can see here the bottom of that bracket's been chopped off, and now the power steering pump will just sit in there. You can see here the revised breather system I've done, with the port coming straight off the top of the cam cover. This now feeds, of course, straight into the catch can like before, and also one coming off the top there. You can actually get a nice brass breather for the top of the oil filter housing from Cloud9 Customs. That's a really cool bit of kit, and in fact we've got quite a few things from Billy Cloud on this build. He's been good as gold, you know, supplying bits and pieces. Check out the website, it's well worth having a look. We're about to get the front on now. Spence and I are going to lift her up and put her on. There you go guys, front's on. Just going to connect up the coolant system now and get everything plugged in. I'm not putting the core packs on yet because we're going to take the plugs out, turn the engine over, get the oil to circulate. And Colin's coming over with the goodies.
Oh, you got no chance of you.
Oh, easy mate.
Premature urbination.
Lovely. Right, just topping up the O2M.
Did you put it on? I'll bring them on.
Colin's done this before. And there she goes. So even just turning over, it's making about what, 55 psi?
Yeah. But isn't it?
Cool. We'll give it a break now. Just let everything settle. We'll whack the fuses for the fuel pumps back in now. Put the spark plugs in. Give it a minute or two to just settle down, and hopefully then fire up shortly, which I cannot wait for. I'm buzzing now. It's going to be fun, isn't it?
So is everybody.
Yeah. Everything is connected. The fuses are in. You excited? These guys have no idea how loud the van is yet and how stupid that exhaust is. So yeah, this moment here, we're just going to start it up for about 15-20 seconds. Just make sure there are no leaks. Give it a bit of cylinder pressure with a couple of revs. And then we're going to leave it for tonight, and then we're going to go straight into mapping tomorrow. You know, when you start mapping a car on a fresh motor, it's really important you bed the rings in. You know, very light load, just building some cylinder pressure. So right guys, here we go. This is the moment of truth.
Show them the initiation.
Yes. Okay, so that's all connected.
Nice. Yeah?
Mate, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, very happy.
No leaks or anything, is it? It's all so good. So I think she just wants a full charge now.
Full charge and then hit it tomorrow. Right, next step before we put it on the dyno, we're going to have to do the trapping on Tom's van, because we had a look and the wheels just didn't look right. And Tom did mention that he hasn't had it done before, so we've just hooked up the Corgi system, and it turns out he's got about 8 mil of towing on the front. Which will just mean that the van actually wants to wander on the rollers when it's on there. So first thing is we'll get the tracking done, just so that, you know, we're ready, we're done, we smashed it. Makes sense. KSW Venom.
A slight pickle with your Jubilee.
I'm not going to worry about the camber yet, because the van is going to be lowered hopefully in a month or two, so we can get this wheel up about an inch level. This has got to be rolled obviously, and also get the plates off Shane at Scarface Lowriders. He does an awesome plate that enables you to put the shock up into the chassis rail a bit more to get a bit more space. I'll get the gas adjustable shocks on there as well, and I'll be ordering those through these guys.
Right, so we started off with about 8 mil positive toe on the front there, and we've ended up with plus 1.2, well, plus 1.5, so it's within range, it's in green, so really happy with that. Now, that means on the dyno it'll be nice and true. So it's getting closer, Tom, it's getting closer.
I know, we're not far off now, are we? It even looks straighter now. The wheels are pointing in the right direction.